It's November. I think we might be the 2nd. It's just not like November. Got beautiful pink skies and sunset. Well, sunset soon in the afternoon, and it's not really very cold. And yeah, just past Halloween, so there's some pumpkins there. So I thought I'd just come and share some poems. There's that side of Halloween where so many people, it's just a bit of fun and a bit of pumpkin carving and dressing up and trick or treating, and generally people all just go where they know, and it's all a bit of fun. But then of course there is a dark side, and perhaps it's we must not listen to the father of the lie, who is Satan, the devil. And so, I've done All Hallows Eve, so I'm going to do 666. So this scroll, they've got the New Jerusalem healing consciousness from the gemstones and the sons of Israel, cited at Revelation 21, and then I sort of do them according to the time of year. And so the Armageddon poem, that's basically looking at the stresses in the world that are causing stress and hurt and pain and injustice, and making people unwell, making animals unwell, and looking at the effects of those. And then I've got All Hallows Eve, darkness to light. So of course the Hallows, hallowed be thy name. It's that consciousness of the meaning of God's name. And All Hallows Eve is the night before All Saints' Day. And so the saints, the ones who've attained to the whole spirit of love. And we see them with that golden halo. And the gold is the most positive. Whoa, look at that gorgeous pink. That most positive element. As it says back in Genesis, that to not positively die by eating of the tree of the bad knowledge, of the evil knowledge. So, if we promote fear and induce fear, then fear is not good for us. It's not good for our body. It makes us stressed, it makes us anxious, it makes us fearful, and it affects the mental health in a negative way. So do not positively die by eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and bad. So we don't want to become doubtful, we don't want to lose our faith, because life without that positive element is not golden. If we want to have that gold, and of course the gifts of the three kings are the gold, which is the most positive element, the frankincense, which is the most calming of the oils, to bring us out of that sympathetic stress response of fear, back into the parasympathetic nervous system, where we attain to the natural endorphins of well-being. So the serotonin, the oxytocin, the dopamine, and the anandamide, which is the bliss molecules. So, all of those who are waiting for rapture, well, it's attaining to the bliss within our body, which is the temple for God's love to dwell. And we do that by removing the causes, which are abusive, they're sinful, and they cause the hurt, grief and pain. And then that creates blocks in the body, and the body can't be well. So so I've got on here. So Genesis 2:17, do not eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, for in so doing you shall surely or positively die. Genesis 2:17. And 1 Corinthians 10:21 says, you cannot drink of the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons. And Romans 13:12 says, let us cast off the works of darkness and put on the armour of light. And Ephesians 6:11, put on the whole armour of God to stand against the wiles of the devil. So that's the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, the belt of truth, the sword of the Spirit, the shield of faith, and the feet of peace. So to walk in that peace, because blessed are the peacemakers, for they're all children of God. And so the end is the beginning of the word endorphin, the end of the quest for heart smiles in love, mimicked by opium posing as opiates, killing pain, knowing pleasure, addictive, seductive, seducing the lie. The end, ending enslavement to cortisol's crying for an end. The end, the release of the endorphins, the dopamine, the serotonin, the oxytocin, the anandamide, binding the blood in marriage with love, which is always positive. The endorphin is the end. The end is the beginning of the word endorphin. His love in our blood, the beginning of freedom. The end is the beginning of his promise. The end is the beginning for look, I'm making all things new. And so love, God's love is not a cortisol stress hormone. And peace is not a cortisol stress hormone, and health is not a cortisol stress hormone. Joy is not a cortisol stress hormone. It's the fears and the stresses and the sins that cause the cortisols to be fired, to be triggered, that autonomic nervous stress response. So we can be changed just as in the twinkling of an eye, because it's a nervous system shift. And it's a conscious shift. Of course, our conscious and reasoning brain doesn't work properly when we are, well, it doesn't work when we're in that fright response. So, and of course, anything that causes stress will trigger it. It can be a biochemical, it can be a food, it can be a toxin, it can be a harsh word, it can be outright physical violence, physical abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, psychopathic and sociopathic behaviours, mindsets, people who don't care without feeling. So that feeling really only comes when we can open up to the fullness of the senses, and when we live in accord with the spirit and the joy of life, and we walk in that love and kindness, and help other people where we can, and make time for ourselves as well. I'm sitting here on the beach. I've got my doggies out, and it's just beautiful. Where would I rather be? And as I say, this is, I think, November the 2nd. And just look, the sea is beautiful, calm, the pink in the clouds. And the sun's gone down now behind, so there won't be much light here for much longer. So, looking at 666 from Revelation 13, and the malignant ulcers. So, do those malignant ulcers, are they the cancers that come from the stress and the pollutions of the world that we're living in? And there's so much fundraising and awareness for cancer, but it doesn't seem to be that the causes are being removed in our way of living and our way of life. So it doesn't really seem very productive. It's not about money, is it? Money isn't going to save the world. It's us changing the way that we live in the world, and how we look after the world, and how we look after each other. And so, all about attaining to those fruits of the Spirit, the love, the joy, the faith, the kindness, mildness, and gentleness, with patience and self-control, not to sin or hurt another, in order for the twofold peace, for the